Good morning, everyone. Welcome. So this is the second of a trilogy of 3 higher trainings, and they're called higher because they're motivated by the mind of renunciation. So renunciation means that we are renouncing worldly concerns. We're wanting to move from just being an ordinary worldly person to a spiritual person, to become free of all kinds of suffering. Because we realize that suffering and its opposite, happiness, are just states of mind. So we cannot free ourselves from suffering by focusing merely on our external world. We need to focus on our internal world and change that. Free ourselves from the causes of suffering, and then we're free. If we free ourselves from the causes, then the results cannot arise. If we understand what the causes of suffering are and make effort to train our mind to become free, then naturally we will become free. As simple as that. I'll give you a written guarantee. If you train your mind correctly, then you will be free of suffering. So in this, we have 2 sessions this morning, one from now until 11:15, another one from 12 to 1:15. In the first one, we'll talk about the nature of concentration, what it means, and then we'll second session, we'll talk about how we accomplish high levels of concentration, and then from that we attain the results that we want to. It's interesting that more people seem to be interested in concentration than moral discipline, which is good. It's just, it's fine. So we'll begin with liberating prayer, and then we'll do a simple breathing meditation.
O Blessed One, Shakyamuni Buddha, precious treasury of compassion, bestower of supreme inner peace, you who love all beings without exception, are the source of happiness and goodness, and you guide us to the liberating path. Your body is a wish-fulfilling jewel. Your speech is supreme purifying nectar, and your mind is refuge for all living beings. With folded hands I turn to you, supreme unchanging friend. I request from the depths of my heart, please give me the light of your wisdom to dispel the darkness of my mind, and to heal my mental continuum. Please nourish me with your goodness, that I in turn may nourish all beings with an unceasing banquet of delight through your compassionate intention, your blessings and virtuous deeds, and my strong wish to rely upon you. May all suffering quickly cease, and all happiness and joy be fulfilled, and may holy Dhamma flourish forevermore.
So that's we just sang the liberating prayer. And in Brazil, the liberating prayer was sung in Portuguese with a different musical background. And it was just so beautiful. So many people were in tears when they heard it for the first time. So maybe we should just sing it in Portuguese. But it's actually on the internet, under YouTube, the Kadamba channel. So you can actually see it for yourself and listen to it. It's very beautiful. So, great scholar Shantideva is talking about the need to develop a virtuous mind. And so, but unfortunately, we find that very difficult. So we're so concerned with worldly concerns. We have so many attachments. You bring any attachments with you today? Yeah. So we're attached to external worldly things. But there's a really nice little verse from Shantideva. So if I bind my crazy elephant mind to the pillar of virtue with the strong rope of mindfulness, and then apply alertness, then I will be able to subdue this crazy elephant mind. So at the moment, we're kind of under the control of our mind. It's like a crazy elephant. And so we just have to do and go wherever our mind tells us to go. And because we have so many attachments to external world, and when we have attachment, we're viewing the object and exaggerating its pleasant, attractive qualities, and wishing to own it and possess it and be with it. And so when we have an attachment to external object, naturally our mind goes to this external object. And in the process, we're allowing our mind to get involved, to take us away from the practice of virtue. So what Shantideva says, we should firmly tie our mind to the virtuous mental objects, virtuous inner objects, and with the rope of mindfulness, Mindfulness is a mind that remembers what has been previously realized and doesn't forget it. So, do you ever practice love and compassion and wisdom in your daily life, or do you just forget about it? This is what we do, and as soon as we walk out the door, we forget about what we were thinking about during the class, during the meditation. Or if we engage in meditation in the morning, and then we go to work, we just completely forget about it. But what Shantideva is saying, we got to remain to some extent in concentration with this practice of mindfulness, throughout our life. So what is concentration? It's a virtuous mental factor, and sometimes a mind also, a virtuous mental factor that enables our mind to focus on a virtuous object and remain on a virtuous object. So if we are able to develop our mind of concentration, then we can remain in virtue. Again, with this practice of mindfulness, really making effort to remember what we'd previously learned, and then using alertness. Alertness is a type of wisdom that enables us to figure out what our mind is doing. It enables one part of our mind to realize what you're thinking about now. And then if our mind has wandered away from its virtuous object, then this mental factor alertness can warn us. Say, hey, you've lost the object. You're thinking about something else now. And so maybe sometimes we think, I just don't care. Because I like thinking about all the objects of attachment. Because I'm so used to feeling that they're the real source of my happiness. But now we've developed the mind of renunciation. And so we need to realize, I've committed myself to becoming a better person. And so now I need to focus my mind on virtuous objects. And so we don't just think, I don't care. We have a mind of conscientiousness that brings our mind back to the virtuous object. If we have no conscientiousness, then we can't bring our mind back. And we have this attitude, I don't care, it doesn't matter. So, what's stopping us from developing concentration? Concentration is essentially enabling us to free ourselves from distractions. When we were practicing moral discipline, we begin to move away from non-virtuous actions and objects. We begin to practice the moral discipline of restraint. We begin to practice the moral discipline of gathering virtuous dharmas, engaging in learning dharma and taking dharma to heart. We also move towards the moral discipline of benefiting others, thinking about how can I bring happiness and freedom to other people. So to some extent, because we're moving towards virtue, then our gross distractions will diminish. So moral discipline is reducing gross distractions. But we still have what's called subtle distractions. We may be meditating on a virtuous object, and then some other thought, well, what am I having for dinner tonight? And so when our mind jumps to the thought of dinner, then it's distracted. But it's possible that we're not completely distracted. We don't completely lose the object that we were meditating on. So in some sense, it's not a complete distraction, it's a more subtle distraction, thinking, I place all my attention on what I'm going to have for dinner, and I've completely forgotten the object. So there are times when we can maintain both. So developing the mind of what's called tranquil abiding. Tranquil abiding and concentration are essentially the same thing. But the implication of this term, tranquil abiding, is that we become more peaceful. We abide in a state of tranquility. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. No matter what else is happening in the world, no matter which storms, political, economic storms, and physical storms outside are occurring, we just abide in a state of tranquility. No matter what's happening to our physical being, we abide in a state of tranquility. No matter what's happening all around us, we still abide in a state of tranquility. So, essentially, can we come back to this question again? What's stopping us finding this thing? It's our attachments. We're so familiar with objects of attachment. Yeah. So even when we're trying to meditate, they still keep cropping up in our mind. Do you find this? Or is it just me? Yeah. And whenever they crop up in our mind, they're harming our concentration. And because this is a Mahayana tradition, a spiritual Buddhist tradition, the object of Mahayana practice is to be able to help other living beings. So as long as we remain ordinary, with all kinds of attachments, our ability to really benefit other living beings is fairly limited. Even if we focus our mind on helping someone, we don't really have the understanding to be able to accomplish that. So, one of the things that we need to do if we're really interested in developing our concentration and acquiring tranquil abiding is to be able to reduce our attachments. So how do we do that? How do we reduce our attachment to things? Well, one way is to think about how unattractive, how repulsive things really are. In Shantideva, in his text, he points out that one of the things that we're most attractive to is other people's bodies. Yeah. Maybe you don't have that, I don't know. You don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell me who it is. But what is it we're being attracted to? And so Shantideva takes great pains to point out the repulsiveness of bodies. Yeah. And so it suggests you imagine what the body would look like if you just peel away the outer layer of skin, for example. what would the body look like then? What's the real body that you're looking at and being attracted to? And then he's asking you to think about all the unpleasant aspects of the body, how it's actually really quite disgusting, how it smells, and well, anyway, you don't. you probably know all this. That's why we have to shower every day and clean our teeth every day and so on. Because if you don't do that, you realize how disgusting your body really becomes very quickly. No? Well, at least you just ask your friends, if you have any. So Shanideva is just really pointing out how foolish it is to be attracted to something so degenerate and disgusting. And it's the same with everything. Everything else, all the worldly things that we're attached to, our wealth, our status, our whether we're respected or not, our reputation, and so on, all of these things, in and of themselves, they're not a problem, but it's our attachment to these things that becomes a problem. We attach to wealth, for example, and we spend all our time thinking about how can I get more and more wealth. I met people who, when bitcoins start up, they become, I think if I invest all my money in bitcoins, I can get really wealthy because the price seems to be good, keep going up. And so they spend all their days working out in there are apparently various calculations and algorithms that you can use to predict the price of bitcoins. So they spend all their days, and then suddenly, even though they've figured out how to make more money, suddenly the bitcoin crashes and lose all their money. And so none of these external things are a true source of happiness. So we need to be able to learn this. So if you just examine what it is you're most attached to, what would be the last thing you would give away? Yeah. If you had to give away everything by the time you die, this is actually the perfection of giving, the virtuous intention to give away everything by the time we die. What would be the last thing that you would give away? So that's the thing you're most attached to. And generally, it's probably our body. Probably most attached to our body. And then there will be a whole host of other things that we'd be attached to, particular items of clothing and so on and so forth. But anyway, you can work out what it is for you. So essentially, as we progress, as our concentration improves and our realizations of Buddha's teachings improve, then gradually we will find ourselves focusing more and more on the practice of Dharma. So the main aspect of the practice of Dharma is meditation. It's not just reading and contemplation, which are both listening and contemplation, both very important. But what makes the biggest difference is the practice of meditation. So we have to be able to improve our practice from being able to hold our mind on a virtuous object from, 5 or 10 seconds before distractions kick in, to gradually holding it for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then eventually as long as we wish. The function of the practice of meditation is to enable our mind to become familiar with virtuous objects. Virtue simply meaning the cause of happiness. So as we become more and more familiar with the causes of happiness, naturally we become happier. Yeah. And then it functions, so meditation functions to enable us to become happier. And then, because we essentially, our ultimate wish is to be able to benefit other people, as we become happier, we have more capacity and power to be able to help other people to be happy as well. Because it's like, you read about all these people who become mountain guides. You don't become a mountain guide by reading a book. You got to be able to climb mountains and so on, be able to lead people up mountains. So, in the same way, we got to be able to do the job ourselves, find happiness and peace ourselves through a meditation practice, and then, only then are we really able to lead others to that same state. So yes, but also, as well as improving our concentration so we too become a better person, tranquil abiding actually gives us particular qualities of clairvoyance. We begin to be able to see things and understand things at a much deeper level, and we begin to for example, to be able to read other people's minds. You can relax, I'm not reading your mind. But if we're able to do that, if we had the clairvoyance to be able to read other people's minds, then we would know better how to be able to benefit them. We know better what they need, what they want, and we'd have the skill to be able to bring it to them. As long as we remain ordinary, we don't have that clairvoyance. It only comes when we develop a very high level of concentration or tranquil abiding. In fact, there are 9 levels of tranquil abiding, 9 levels of abiding. And what we need to aim to do is to work our way through these different 9 levels. So first we really got to think about how we can remove the obstacles to accomplishing tranquil abiding, because that's what we need to do. If you think about the nature of our mind, it's like clear empty space that functions to cognize and understand things. It's not a physical entity, just like clear empty space. And so essentially our mind has the ability to concentrate. So what gets in the way is all the conceptual thoughts that are arising from our delusions, our minds of anger and irritation and jealousy and uncontrolled desires. Uncontrolled desires simply means that we have no control over our mind. Our mind just naturally and spontaneously moves to objects of attachment. You find this? And what happens? Well, how do we feel when we have no control over our mind, when we feel out of control, I just have to have this. I have to do it. I have to go there. I have to acquire this. We can't sleep. We can't rest until we fulfilled our non-virtuous wish. There's no peace. We go to sleep thinking about our objects of attachment, and we wake up thinking about our objects of attachment. Yeah, no. Sometimes I wonder, when you don't respond, this is if it's not, you already have tranquil abiding. You're just waiting for me. So essentially, what we really need to do is to really practice contentment. I'm content right now. I'm happy right now. I don't need anything else. You think about one of the pieces of advice from Atisha. Trying to fulfill our desires is like drinking seawater. So when our mind goes to an object of attachment, and this is what I want, even if we get it, that's not going to be the end of it. It only provides temporary pleasures. It's not real happiness. It just provides temporary pleasure. And then when that pleasure fades, we think, I need some more. I need to go and get some more, maybe more of it this time, or a different version of it, and so on. You find this with relationships. Yeah. Sometimes we can just hop from place to place to place in searching for the ideal situation. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So, if we're really interested in developing tranquil abiding, if we're really interested in having the power to be able to benefit other people, one of the first things we need to do is to practice contentment, to begin to address the real causes of our lack of concentration. Because if we're thinking, I'm happy right now, I don't need anything else, there's no need for our mind to jump away. It's not naturally thinking, where can I find my source of happiness or my source of pleasure? It's just, I'm still, I'm right here. I don't need anything. And this is such a beautiful mind. And if we have that, then there's nothing to stop our concentration improving. We can then place our mind on a virtuous object like love, like compassion, like wisdom, realizing emptiness, like the object of a mental object of impermanence, a mental object of renunciation. All of Buddha's, all the 21 meditations in Lam Rim, they're all mental objects. And when we place our mind on any of these mental objects, then we're practicing virtue. Because all of these mental objects are leading us out of suffering, out of samsara, to find nirvana or liberation, and ultimately complete enlightenment. So if we have a mind of contentment, and then we engage in meditation, we're much less likely for our mind to jump away. And so it's more likely that we'll be able to hold our mind on the virtuous object for longer and longer. And so in the process, we become more and more familiar with that virtuous object. So what we're doing is training our mind in virtue. And so naturally, we're not training in non-virtue. Like the minds of anger and disappointment and desires, attachment. So then as we become more and more familiar with these virtuous objects, we're able to hold our mind on the virtuous object for longer and longer, because our mindfulness will be working. We already have the mind of the intention of renunciation to free ourselves from suffering, but also it will be very easy to develop the virtuous mental intention of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is a mind, like bodhi meaning enlightenment and citta meaning mind, a mind that seeks enlightenment in order to be able to benefit other living beings. So these minds are not very easy to, they don't naturally occur. You know? We have to develop these minds, and they develop, bodhicitta, for example, develops out of the mind of compassion. But how do we become familiar with the mind of compassion? We all have the seeds of compassion. Everyone has, every living being has a seed of compassion. And we have the great good fortune as human beings to be able to develop those seeds. So compassion we begin to realize compassion. So we all have compassion for some things. People that are close to us, whenever they experience suffering, we want their suffering to disappear. We have compassion for ourselves. We want our own suffering to disappear. But most people, not so much. So what we need to be able to do is to extend our mind of compassion outwards. So gradually it begins to encompass every living being. And we are able to do that because we come to realize every living being is suffering. No matter who you think about, no matter who you meet, whether they've been kind to you or not been kind to you, they're all suffering. And often so much worse than we experience ourselves. If you just think of people in other parts of the world, in people caught up in conflicts and wars and so on, people living in extreme poverty, extreme hunger, extreme thirst, homeless people and so on, you begin to realize that we're surrounded by suffering. Every living being experiences sufferings of birth, aging, sickness and death without choice. This is who we are. And so when we meditate on this, then we become more familiar with that mind of compassion. And so spontaneously, when we think of other people, that mind of compassion spontaneously arises. Yeah. Instead of just thinking, oh, how are they going to benefit me? Are they going to cause me harm, or are they going to cause me enjoyment? If they're enjoyment, then they can stick around. And so when we're attached to people, that's what we're thinking. when we become attached to someone, we're thinking of the qualities that they have that make us feel good. Is that not the case? Yeah. And when we're angry with people, we're thinking of the qualities they have that make us feel bad, make us feel unpleasant. And so we're constantly searching, because we have this mind of, this non-virtuous mind of self-cherishing, we're constantly searching for people and things that can make us feel okay. And nobody and nothing can do that for you. It's just a waste of time. And again, the reason is that happiness and freedom from suffering are simply states of mind. And we need to generate for ourselves these states of mind through the practice of meditation. We're so fortunate that Buddha discovered this for himself and then gave teachings. And we have these teachings, same teachings, nothing changed, nothing added, nothing left out, for us today. And so in books like Joyful Path of Good Fortune, in books like Meaningful to Behold, if you have these two books, then you have pretty well a commentary on all of Buddha's teachings and how to practice them. And so you have a complete pathway of mental training from being ordinary to becoming extraordinary. But it's dependent on listening, which includes reading. It's dependent on contemplating, really thinking about the meaning of these teachings for you. Buddha always said, don't do what I say just because it's me who's saying it. Check it out for yourself. So check it out. Go and read. Go and listen to teachings. Contemplate. Think about it in a very, very deeply, and then meditate on it. For example, just take the mind of renunciation. What does that mean for you? What it doesn't mean is that you've got to leave all your family and loved ones and go off into the woods and find a hut and just sit there and think, oh, I'm renouncing the world, We're not renouncing the world. We're renouncing our attachments to it. We're renouncing our own causes of suffering. And so the three higher trainings, once we've developed that mind of renunciation, the three higher trainings are the way to make this manifest, to make this freedom from suffering manifest. And it begins with moral discipline. Again, not only do we purify our mind, but we also begin to let go of gross mental distractions. And so it's leading us to concentration. And then when we practice the requirements of developing tranquil abiding, then we draw on that moral discipline and the abandonment of subtle distractions, and then our mind becomes very clear. One of the main principal benefits of a practice of tranquil abiding, or development of our concentration, is that we achieve both a physical and mental suppleness. A physical and mental suppleness. So physical suppleness arises when our body is pervaded by virtuous winds. virtuous energy winds. And this occurs through meditation. When we're single-pointedly focused on a virtuous object, then our minds are like coming in. Our minds are coming inwards. And on every mind that we have, every thought that we have, is supported by an energy wind. Wind is just like movement. It's supported by an energy wind. So every mind that we have is connected to an energy wind. So when our minds come inwards, then those energy winds come inwards also. And in the process they become more pure. So we could be sitting in meditation, single-pointedly concentrated on one virtuous object. Our minds come in, bringing in these subtle energy winds, and then our whole body becomes pervaded by a pure energy wind. When that happens, we experience quite interesting transformations of our body. The appearance of our body doesn't change, but our experience of our body changes. It becomes very light, almost like cotton wool, and we don't experience any pain or discomfort. So it's very... Yeah. So you should try it. I mean, you should aim to be able to experience this very blissful suppleness that arises from concentration. And then when also we have this physical suppleness, then it induces a mental suppleness as well. And this suppleness of our mind enables us to really be able to move, to make our mind very flexible and very useful in the practice of Dharma. So also it becomes all our everything that's preventing us from engaging in Buddha Dharma begins to dissolve away. You know, sometimes, I guess at the present time, there will be times when you think, oh, I'd like to meditate, but I can't be bothered. Yeah. And there'll be other times when I think, oh, I'd rather go to the football match, or whatever. I'd rather watch television, and so on. I'd rather read this book or whatever. I'd rather go and visit my friend. So it's like spiritual practice becomes secondary or tertiary, whatever. It becomes something that is just like an add-on to our normal everyday experience. But with this mind of suppleness, all these constraints and restraints that keep us away from really engaging with the source of happiness, the real source of happiness, then they begin to disappear. I'm not saying we sit in meditation all day, but even when we're out of meditation, we're less likely to forget the objects that we're meditating on. So as we move from, as our ability to control our mind improves, and we progress more and more towards a state of tranquil abiding, as we progress through the 9 different levels of abiding, then we experience more and more there's both physical and mental suppleness. And so our ability to continue to engage in spiritual practice improves. So the more we meditate, the more we're able to meditate. And the more we enjoy that meditation. We don't think this is a job that we're supposed to do. This is a real source of happiness. Yeah, it's not chocolate. Not chocolate, it's the real source of happiness is the quality of the virtuous minds that we're able to maintain. It's important to point out that the objects, the mental objects, they are mental objects, not objects that appear to our sense awarenesses. So some people say, well, you just need to sit and look at a candle or listen to music or something. So these are objects that appear to our sense awarenesses, but it's not meditation. Meditation is especially limited to concentrating on a virtuous object. So as I said, we have in the Lamrim meditations, like the meditation handbook, we have, or the 16 meditations of the Mirror of Dharma with additions that we do on a Monday evening. On a Monday evening we just go through these one by one meditation each week. We go through all of these meditations, and once we reach the end we go back to the beginning again. So we have a constant cycle going through these meditations. So each time it becomes more and more familiar. And so we begin to penetrate the mental object. So I said it's a mental object, so essentially what it is that we're meditating on is a generic image that we have in our mind. So if we take the mind of compassion, we develop a generic image of someone else's suffering, and then develop the wish or the determination to take away that suffering. So all of that is in the mind, and we're creating these images in our mind. So when we're meditating on, first of all, with the generic image, the more we meditate on it, the more we experience it and begin to understand it and become familiar with the mind of, say, compassion, then we need the generic image less and less. And gradually it's just dissolving away until we're able to really penetrate and experience compassion as if we were seeing it directly. In that moment, it's like we develop a realization of compassion. So it's like the difference between just thinking about compassion and really experiencing compassion with our deepest level of mind. So when we develop a realization of compassion, from then on, all our actions are motivated by this mind of compassion. So you see how just through the process of meditating on one object, we naturally become a better person. We become a better person because our actions are better, more virtuous, more conducive to bringing happiness to other people. And so what we're seeking to do is to develop realizations of all the stages of the path to enlightenment, one by one. From realizing we have a precious human life, right up to the mind of bodhicitta, and developing a wisdom, realizing emptiness, and being able to rely on our spiritual guide. So all of this through a practice of meditation and developing a single-pointed concentration. Single-pointed means that we only have one thought in our mind, one generic image in our mind. So compassion and not what's for dinner. So when we let go of what's for dinner, when we let go of all the other distracting generic images, then we're able to have this single-pointed concentration. So that is essentially how we're developing our concentration, by letting go of all the distractions. First, gross distractions from moral discipline, and then subtle distractions from our practice of concentration. So the two types of distraction that go on, one is called mental excitement, when we're single-pointedly focused on a virtuous object, and then our mind goes away to an object of attachment. It's called mental excitement. And the other kind is called mental sinking, when our grasp and hold on the object begins to fade. It becomes less clear, and we hold the object not so well. And when that happens, like when we're beginning meditation, you have a strong tendency just to fall asleep, often. Maybe even when we've been meditating a long time. So what's happening then is that our hold on the object is diminishing. The clarity of our hold on the object is getting less and less. And eventually it disappears completely. And it's like our mind becomes more and more dull, just sinking into dullness or sleep. And then we've lost the object. So one of the things we can do to overcome this mental sinking is just to look up at a bright light. So when we realize that this sinking is occurring, just look up at a bright light. And there's another more advanced technique, is if we imagine our mind as like a small jewel, and we just shoot our mind out with the word pay. This word pay is like a Sanskrit word that is very powerful. So we shoot our mind out in the form of like a jewel-like drop. We shoot it out through the top of our head into the atmosphere. And for some reason that helps to stop mental sinking. And then our mind comes back again, and then we continue with the meditation. With the case of mental excitement, we need to have the mental factor alertness that kicks in and just checks and tells us that your mind has moved away from the virtuous object you were meditating on. Now you have this attachment and this attachment arising. So it's like a warning. And as I said, we need conscientiousness to take the decision, we're coming back. We're not continue to meditate on the object of attachment, we're coming back to the virtuous object. And so we replace our mind on the object and then go through this process of placing it, holding it, and then losing it again. And then we just keep going back and forward in this process, finding the object, placing our mind on it, holding it there, then losing it, and going again and again. So let's finish this last 15 minutes then with a meditation. So we can contemplate. In order to be able to receive the real benefits of finding happiness and peace for ourselves, and being able to bring that happiness and peace and share it with other people out of love, wishing others to be happy, and out of compassion, wishing others to be free from suffering. We realize if we really want to be able to do this, we need to improve our concentration. And we realize that what's holding me back, what's holding us back, is our attachment to worldly concerns and worldly pleasures. And so we make a determination, because I really want to be able to improve my concentration, so I can really begin to benefit others and find real happiness myself. I will reduce my attachments to worldly pleasures and worldly concerns, and instead look inside my mind for my source of happiness and peace, and practice contentment. So what we're doing in this meditation is creating a cause to be able to improve our concentration. And if we create the cause, then the result will definitely appear. So we meditate single-pointedly on the determination to reduce our attachment to worldly concerns and pleasures. So we develop that mind, that thought, I want to reduce my desires for worldly attachments and instead practice contentment, because it will bring great benefits both to me and to others. So really contemplate that thought, really create this generic image of what your life would be like if you become free of worldly attachments. And then place your mind on the determination. When you have a good generic image, once you've found the object, place your mind on the object, this determination, this is what I will do. Because I want to find real happiness, I will reduce and eventually stop my attachments to worldly pleasures and worldly concerns. And once you place your mind, hold it single-pointedly, free of distractions, for as long as you can. If you lose the object, go back and again recreate the generic image, the mind of a determination, and then place your mind, once you find the object, place your mind on it, and then hold it single-pointedly again until you lose it once more, and then repeat. And for the last minute, try to have a deep experience of concentration on this determination to abandon attachment to worldly concerns. Thank you. So now you can relax your concentration. And when you're ready, you can arise from meditation. So there we were practicing the first few stages of first few abidings that take us towards tranquil abiding. Finding the object, placing our mind upon it, holding it single-pointedly, replacing it, finding the object again, and so on. We improve our skill at doing these things, so our meditation session becomes more and more productive. Okay. The important thing is being able to find the object. If we can't find the object, then our meditation session has no function. Yeah. So this is why Venerable Geshe-la has produced texts like the New Meditation Handbook and texts like the Mirror of Dharma with additions. The additions are the meditations. He kindly reduced, making it more simple to practice from 21 meditations to 16. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll see you again at 12.
Okay guys, tea and coffee in the cafe, freely available on the far wall as you go in, and barista coffees and teas on the left as you go in. On the left. So see you back at 12.
And everything.
I've just made a local super. Did you put it?
No,
So you come to lovely bit. And of course, we all have ideas. Discrimination, yeah. How did you find us? It will probably take a while. I would suggest, because the question is mine. So it's still more often I see this, you see the pain of subtle and that's what we find. When you get big, where your mind's going, because you learn to control your mind and what you're able to use. Very clearly, I think. Renunciation is not this meeting. I just want to so write the scenes and get this way.
I mean,
You don't want my more, I mean, I'll say what it is. Okay? We wouldn't be interested in losing it unless it was not practice. That's the first. The other thing, when you go to what happens your heart, straight walls,
It just seems to be like, yeah, how fast can we get off the place?
this is
It makes me
real
feel
medicine.
She'll slip, but she'll not sure. It's just like that. So, you know, that is sexual, like, she's right. Oh, so she does. It's just, well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's the time. She's like, shouldn't have said that. Not to be like that. And it's getting longer and longer.
It's going there in the end, yeah. It's getting tough.
Yes, okay.
It's just the way life changes. It's like
Donations, there's a donation box on the wall. Just do it.
Oh, okay. That's lovely.
And nothing to do it. It makes no difference.
Oh, that's great.
You try and
it's there like
watch it resurrection. It'll come down eventually. If you don't get it, just send an email to the email on the website. You're wrong. Sue Garner.
Thank you for
Oh, I see that.
the children receive stories also through which not to split up sessions and give a part of the because it was toxic. Amazing. And basically on the red line, so that's the policy, which is basically she makes it. She's 86, she's like 4 games, and then we sorted the plastic tails in there. So we keep in touch with all the other because obviously in the battle, I mean, we do understand that, but like I used to, I mean, I go away from the hands, I mean, you know, she's having a bottle into the sink or something like that, and I just take back on the side, stick on it. And she goes, alright. Anyway, I've learned that. I don't want to be. So the traumatized, you know, really guilty and because a lot of people use through. So usually stuff like that is, I'm going to more than just one. Delivery, so I'm late, I just retired. 10 grand time.
I mean, back in the day, it's common for them. My mum's dad did it in the Masonite. And they both still live in the same house as each other, Masonite, they're 240 Masonite, and he lived upstairs. That was Fridge's room. It's only one room. It's a big accident for me. I mean, you know, I just want to be able to see it on YouTube. I must be 70.
I know it's a rare thing that she can change the accidents, that's how I'm operating, something quite comfortable with that. And like, one comes through because it's out in America, and she's like, I'm doing this for myself, and I was like, because it's just, done all that gentleman. She was just quite autistic. Yeah, it just to say the nation's one thing to say the place was the apple is all you have to make out. She's got so she's got serious injuries. She was on the scene again suffer and she will be the kids Spanish you probably see it on there on the she looked at me and she was so low actually trying to say but she'll be alright she's got me
It's like kids.
It's an epidemic, isn't it? When that comes, it's something kill these children and stuff. Kurt Boston was alright, it's like a woman that I was I know it's just sometimes I don't even recommend it because I'm quite empathic and looking at people and I'm always talking to them. I'm always looking and it feels like everything feels like materials and fast-paced and people's upset and suffering. And I already get into something and see the illness people
All I've been on a mission on
we're not I weeks and there's 220 people coming by St Sylvester's yeah to entertain them people all singing and clapping and that but Elliot's got the kids Jenny has a wedding this year we're going on Christmas so we sing on Jenny we're going down and just entertaining the troops.
You'll enjoy the
I've done it before. I haven't celebrated that since since I moved in here 7 years ago. I mean, I don't understand, they used to celebrate that.
The first morning, so I had maybe breakfast. Yeah, breakfast. Right, and they say, okay, well, breakfast for me was absolutely such a shock, you know, all that weight going down on your face. I was lucky. Mom and then all the tax and all the care about the hospital.
Once you get in, yeah, you see.
The actors didn't turn up for it, so we had to get ourselves.
I was just telling you.
Yeah, so, but the people looking after me on the paper. And the young lady came to look past the next morning. So she was a sister.
What made it come? Is she going to keep coming?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I've got a big find her. Oh, I've got a number, yeah. This Irish girl. So I was a catch up. It was another lady, Sadie, was on the corner just around here. And she was tea in a blanket in a chair. And this was after about an hour.
On the pavement?
Yeah, just by the time I was able to stand up and I sat down in this chair. It was so kind. It really was a lovely experience in that respect, you know. But then many hours in the hospital. But you see those people as well.
It's an eye-opener, isn't it? Really, it's a casualty.
Yeah.
Well, when I worked in the old hospital, the patient lives and the patient lives with the same public so
Oh my God.
dying in a bed, in people like wards, like open cuts up and that going on.
Yeah.
I've only got a few days to live with
Well,
it.
that's fine.
And you just see that, you just see that.
That is some sorrow.
You think, oh, it's
This is how
it's fine,
it is.
actually. Yeah. Just,
Come on, let's go and have a cup of tea.
So we're going to begin with the same meditation that we finished with last session, only it's going to be slightly different this time. We're going to do something beforehand, just to try and get rid of distractions. So sit in meditation, and I'll guide you through this, and then I'll leave you alone to engage in the meditation that we just did. The meditation on the determination to overcome worldly attachments. So sitting in good meditation posture with a good straight back, just check your body is comfortable and relaxed. So begin by thinking about the whole of the outside world, all the living beings, all the places, all the activities. Throughout the whole world. And then begin to imagine that the whole world begins to disappear from the edges inwards. So you can imagine great mountains, great oceans, great cities and whole populations simply disappearing into empty space. And gradually the whole of planet Earth is disappearing into empty space from the edges inwards towards this city. Whole countries just disappearing into space. The whole of England disappears into space. Until all that remains is this city. And then imagine that even the city begins to disappear. The river disappears, the docks, the great buildings. All the houses and highways, the parks, schools, hospitals, until all that remains is this room, as if this room is suspended alone in empty space. And then even the room itself begins to disappear. First the ceiling, and then the walls, all the statues, then everyone else in the room, and all the furniture, and then even the floor, and the chair on which you're sitting. Everything dissolved into empty space. The only thing that appears is you, your body and your mind. And now bring to mind the generic image of your own determination to free yourself from attachment to worldly concerns. Because you want to become the best you can be, and you want to be able to help all other living beings. So now meditate single-pointedly on that generic image of your own mind of determination. This is what I'm going to do. So place your mind on that determination and hold it single-pointedly. With mindfulness and alertness. Just see if you can allow your whole mind to mix with this thought, my determination. One more minute to have single-pointed concentration. So now you can slowly begin to relax your concentration. And when you're ready, you can arise from meditation. So, did you notice any difference in the quality of the meditation? So that process of just dissolving, imagining you're dissolving the rest of the world away, in reality you are. And I can say that because there is no object other than what appears to your mind. So if you get all the objects of the rest of the world out of your mind, then there's nothing for your mind of distraction to land on. Yeah. And so all you have is your body and your mind. And so it becomes much easier to find the object and then to have single-pointed concentration on the object. So this is just a very useful strategy when you're trying to meditate. And you just dissolve the rest of the world away. Generally, we only develop this mind of tranquil abiding, reaching the 9th level of abiding in retreat. So what we have to do is to think about what would be the conditions that we need to create for retreat. We need a decent place, because we're going to be in retreat for a while. We're not going to get tranquil abiding overnight. So we're going to be in retreat for a while. If we're doing a retreat on tranquil abiding. And so we need a proper place to accomplish this. So it needs to be clean. It needs to have access to the ability to sustain yourself, like food and clean water. It's good if there are friends around who are able to help you, perhaps bring food to you, bring provisions to you, to care for you if you get sick. Particularly, it's good to have a place where your spiritual guide has engaged in retreat in the past, or where other holy beings have been. In Scotland, we were very fortunate because in the south of Scotland there was a place up in the hills called Tharpaland. Tharpa means liberation. So Tharpaland was this special retreat centre. It was an old farmsteading and farmhouse on top of a hill in the south of Scotland. And Venerable Geshe had been in retreat there from 1987 to 1991, I think. He'd been in retreat there for 3 years. So it was a very special place. It was so special that some Tibetan lamas came to visit. And after Geshe was gone back, had come out of retreat and created the New Kadampa tradition. But some Tibetan lamas came to find out where Geshe had been doing retreat, and they said, as I said, it was up a hill. They said that if this place was in Tibet or in India, people would be prostrating from the bottom of the hill up to the top of the hill, because Venerable Geshe had done retreat there. So it's a very special place and very easy to gain realizations in meditating there. And I had the great good fortune to do a week of silent, solitary retreat there after highest Yoga Tantra empowerment at Manjushri. It was a pretty run-down place, I have to say. The farmhouse itself was very nice, but then there was all kinds of outbuildings, and there was this tiny room that was a stone wall in part one of the outbuildings, and you just had about enough room to have a single-person bed, and you could close the door. And have a hook for your clothes on the top of the door. And there was at the end of the bed, there was a bookcase for books and so on. But there's a very narrow passageway beside the bed. And it's this tiny room. And when Geshe saw this place, he said, a Kadampa room. Because it's the nature of Kadampas. They don't need much stuff for their practice is contentment. Anyway, I was in one of the rooms in the house, and it had its own shower and bathroom. But it hadn't been well kept, and the shower room was pretty grungy. And so I come into this place and I think, oh dear, how can I be there here for a week? But then after 2 days I didn't want to leave because it becomes so special. But then the external environment didn't matter. It was of no concern. I was just having such a good time in meditation. So that was a very special experience for me, and I wish I could do it more often, but I teach instead. So yeah, we need a good place to meditate, and we need faith in Buddha's teachings to overcome all the obstacles that can arise, like laziness. You ever suffer laziness? You know, you hear this expression, born lazy. As if sometimes we're particularly from our parents. I remember I heard this expression quite a lot. And it's like they're saying that you're inherently lazy. It's just your whole nature is laziness. But actually, laziness is just like a delusion, a secondary delusion that can be removed. Like any delusion, it can be removed. And this, because if we understand the real causes of laziness, like procrastination, anybody have this problem? You know, it's said before that in Scotland we tend to think, why put off till tomorrow what you can do the day after? So that's one of our national problems, I think. So there's procrastination, there's laziness of discouragement, there's the laziness of attachment to worldly things, like a life of ease, and so on. So if we understand the causes of our laziness, then we can address each one. So what we need, like the opponents to laziness, are things like mind of faith. If we have faith in Buddha's teachings, then we come to realize that we have the potential to become great, extraordinary beings. And all that's holding ourselves back, all that's preventing us from doing this, is our laziness. Yeah. But if we have faith, the more faith we have, the more confidence that, yes, I can do this. It's not easy. Of course it's not easy, because I got a million other things to do. But we have the confidence, yes, I can accomplish this. I have, I'm able to read books, I'm able to understand their meaning, I'm able to listen to teachings, I'm able to meditate. I have everything I need to be able to engage in this spiritual journey. So, if we understand that, and we understand the great benefits that will come from making progress on this spiritual journey, we'll find real happiness, not just temporary pleasures. We find real happiness, real freedom from suffering. Then the more we have that conviction, then the more we're likely to engage in meditation practice. And then from that mind of faith comes the mind of aspiration. What do we aspire to? What are our goals and objectives for this life? Yeah. To retire to Spain or whatever? Yeah. Or have just imagine us sitting by the ocean, playing in the sand and whatever, having nice drinks by that bar by the side of the beach. that stuff has no meaning. Once you've done it, you realize there's nothing in it. Yeah. And you get burnt by the sun, you know. And not even Spain is free from torrential rain and so on. You know, you'd think Spain was about the driest place on earth, but this recent experience shows it's not. The things change so dramatically. So you realize the only real place you're going to find the happiness that you long for is inside your own heart. And that needs meditation. And then from this mind of aspiration, I aspire to become the best I can be. I aspire to be free of suffering. I aspire to become a bodhisattva and be able to help everyone else. And so from the stronger our aspiration, the more effort we're able to put in to fulfill our aspirations. And the more effort, then we overcome things like discouragement and attachment to a life of ease and procrastination. We do it now. If we think about our death, contemplating our death really overcomes our procrastination, because our reality is, our only reality is that we will die. We will die. Everyone in this room will die at some time or other. But none of us know when that will be. None of us know when that will be. And it could be on any given day. You just stick your finger in your calendar, that could be the day that you die. You don't know. It could be any time, anywhere. And in reality, it could be today. If we come to this realization, we wake up in the morning, we think, oh, this could be the day that I die. Why? You have a strong incentive. If you have faith in Buddha's teachings, if you aspire to become the best person you can be, you have a strong motivation to do it right today and not miss out on today, because this could be the only day that you have. And so you're waking up the next morning and think, oh, I didn't die yesterday. But so I better get down to it again today. And so if you spend every day for the rest of your life, if you live for another 30 years, you're able to look back on those 30 years and you say, hey, I meditated every day. I really strive to become the best person I can be. And so now I feel very peaceful, very happy. If I do die today, I can die with a happy, peaceful mind. How amazing is that? And in the process, I've developed all these realizations of the stages of the path. And I've been able to help so many people because I practice pure moral discipline, and I showed people by my own example how they too could do the same thing. And because I meditated on wisdom, realizing emptiness, then nothing bothers me. I have no fear. I have no anxiety. Completely free. In reality, when you think about it, you have become an extraordinary person over those 30 years. So what you're doing also is giving your future self an extraordinary gift of a beautiful mind. The person you become in your next life, you're giving them this beautiful mind. So what a gift that would be. They have a human rebirth, they have a human body, and they have your beautiful mind that you've created. Amazing. And so your future self looks back and say, hey, thanks so much. Because of the decisions that you made to meditate in your life, now I've got an extraordinary mind. So you can look back at the person previous to you, previous to this life, and say, thank you so much, because now I have a human life. Now I'm able to listen to Buddhist teachings. Now I'm able to meditate. Now I'm able to read books by this extraordinary Buddhist master, Geshe Kelsang Gyatso. Now I'm able to improve myself. And so it goes on. And so we're giving a gift to the person of our next life. So our mind of faith and our aspirations of what we think we want to, what we want to become, and the confidence that we have to be able to make that happen, it enables us to overcome all the obstructions that we face when we're thinking about meditating. And in the process, we're giving ourselves a great gift, because we're giving ourselves the gift of both physical and mental suppleness. And from those minds arise the mind of bliss. And blissful experience, you know, I can say that when I was in meditation for this week, I did experience this in a fairly short space of time. I was only there for a week. And yet, because it was so easy to meditate then, it was just a very blissful experience. So, when another way of training our mind in meditation, particularly when we're beginning to meditate, is simply to meditate on the breath. But so we can just watch the breath. We can do other types of meditation, like black and white breathing, or what's called Om-Ahum breathing, where you imagine as you breathe in, you hear the sound of Om, and then you hold the breath and hear the sound of Ah, and as you breathe out, you hear the sound of Hum. Om-Ahum is the mantra of all Buddhas. So when we're doing that meditation, we're mixing our mind with the mantra of all Buddhas, and you can come to understand that the mantra is the same nature as the Buddha, him or herself. So if this is the mantra of all Buddhas, we're mixing our mind with all Buddhas' wisdom and compassion. So because the mantra comes from the mind of an enlightened being, all enlightened beings. And Buddha's mind and their body are never separated. So when we have the mind of all Buddhas in our mind, then essentially we have all Buddhas in our mind. Isn't that cool? Just 3 letters and you have the whole panoply of Buddhas. But anyway, this very simple practice that is very effective in enabling us to use the practice of mindfulness and alertness, but particularly alertness. So in this meditation, we're just going to count the breaths. We're going to count each breath. And we begin at 1. And every breath we take, we add the count, we increase the count. But what we have to be able to do is to use alertness to recognize what our mind is thinking about. So if you count to 5 and you find you're thinking about your dinner, then you've lost the object. Yeah. So when we lose the object, what we do, we just don't just go back to where we left off. We go back to the beginning and start again at 1. And our objective is to be able to count up to 21 without losing concentration. Okay? So the important thing is very important that as soon as you realize that you've lost the object with this mind, of this mental factor alertness. As soon as you realize you've lost the object, you stop and go back to the beginning and start again. Okay? Yeah? Okay. So your object of meditation is your breath and the count together. So some people will count, will imagine they hear the sound of the number. Some people will just visualize the number. Whatever works for you. So just sit in good meditation posture. Just check your body is comfortable and relaxed. And now bring your mind just to watch your breath. Every time you breathe out, you count the breath. So as you first time you breathe out, count 1, and then the second time you breathe out, count 2, etc. And as soon as you realize you've lost concentration, lost the object, you just stop and go back to the beginning. So we take just under 10 minutes for this whole meditation. So now again, slowly you can begin to relax your concentration. And when you're ready, you can arise from meditation. So it doesn't really matter how many breaths you were able to count or what you were not able to count. Maybe it was just establishing a baseline for you to evaluate how your training is going, how your training in concentration is going. So if you do breath counting every day, very relatively soon, maybe 3 to 4 weeks, you'll be able to count up to 21, which is kind of a long time. It's probably about 2 minutes in breathing times, yeah, depending how frequently you breathe. So once we become adept at using mindfulness and alertness, then we can apply it to other objects, not just our breath or the count. And for example, if we have a problem of anxiety, many people seem to have an anxiety problem, we can meditate on impermanence of all phenomena. So the things that we're anxious about, they don't last. Eventually they will change and disappear. If we have an anger problem, then we can meditate on love and compassion. If we have uncontrolled desire, we can, as I mentioned earlier, we can meditate on repulsiveness, and so on. If we are bothered with distractions, then we can meditate on the breath. You'll find in books like the Meditation Handbook that one of the ways is to overcome distractions beforehand is to meditate on the breath. So no matter what our meditation is, we should spend a few moments meditating on the breath, and that will help to let go of distractions. Let me just read a little from this text, from the Meditation on Tranquil Abiding. One of the other reasons that we need to attain tranquil abiding is to realize emptiness directly. Initially, we meditate on emptiness with a generic image. And then if we continue to meditate on emptiness, a generic image is like, we all carry around generic images. Like if I say giraffe, you have an image of a giraffe in your mind. And that's just a generic image that we know that every time we see an animal that fits that description, we know it's a giraffe. Yeah, so we know, yeah. Okay, so it's the same with emptiness. We have a generic image of emptiness, which is the ultimate nature of all things, all phenomena. The generic image of emptiness is unfindability. If something really exists in the way in which we see it, then we'll be able to find it if we search for it. But if once we search in every location, we can't find it, all we find is the unfindability of the object that we normally see, like ourself. It's hilarious to realize we don't exist inherently, and that it's we come to realize we're just a thought and nothing more, or a name and nothing more. It's hilarious to realize this, because all our problems and difficulties arise from thinking, oh, I really exist in exactly the way I think about myself. Anyway, So we have a generic image of unfindability, and then we meditate on the unfindability of the object that we normally see. It could be ourself or our body or an inanimate object or someone else's self or body. And so we meditate on the unfindability as a representation of emptiness. And then, but gradually, the more we meditate on that unfindability, gradually the unfindability gradually disappears. And then it's as if we see the emptiness of ourself or our body or something else, as if we're seeing it directly. And so our mind mixes completely with the emptiness of the object. So in that moment, we develop a direct realization of emptiness. But in order to achieve that direct realization of emptiness, we have to be able to meditate on, with the generic image, with a mind of tranquil abiding. So tranquil abiding, this concentration, this high-level concentration comes first, and then direct realization of emptiness comes after that. So, actual tranquil abiding is a special concentration that is attained by completing the training in the 9 levels of concentration, known as the 9 mental abidings, and that is conjoined with a special bliss of mental and physical suppleness. So as our concentration develops through the different mental abidings, we're strengthening this experience of bliss, of mental and physical bliss and suppleness. To train in tranquil abiding, we first need to choose an object of meditation. We can choose any of the objects of the 21 meditations. If we choose an object such as equanimity, love, compassion, or bodhicitta, we first transform our mind into that particular state of mind by using appropriate contemplations, and then hold that state of mind with single-pointed concentration. If we choose an object such as emptiness, impermanence, or the preciousness of this human life, we first attain a clear mental image of the object by relying upon the appropriate contemplations, and then concentrate singly. Once we have attained the 4th mental abiding, we are ready to do a strict retreat on tranquil abiding. In some cases, at this stage, it is possible to attain actual tranquil abiding within 6 months. For our retreat to be successful, we need to find a suitable place that's very quiet, has all necessary conditions. We must have few desires and be able to remain content all the time. And can you be content for 6 months? You see how we need to prepare. We can't just think, oh yeah, I've been to a class on concentration, now I can go and do a retreat on tranquil abiding. No, you can't. You need to start by thinking, I'll do a day retreat on some of the objects that I've learned. I'll do a day's retreat. And so you define the boundaries, the mental and physical boundaries of your retreat. In other words, for a physical boundary, you don't go beyond that boundary. You don't go to the movies or whatever. And you create a mental boundary. I'm not going to think about this. I'm not going to read other stuff or watch television. I'll control my mind, restrict my mind, and just focus on this object. You do that for a day and see how you feel. If you don't go crazy, maybe you can do it for 2 days. or a weekend, and then for a week, and then a month, and then 3 months. If you do 3 months, maybe you're getting ready. You're approaching the state where you can begin to think about creating the conditions to do a tranquil abiding retreat. So, yeah. So we have a little time left. Maybe you would like to ask some questions.
I have a question. You know, if you talk about tranquil abiding, saying you did it yourself, you did it in your house, is the expectation that you literally sit there focused on whatever it is you're focusing on, or is it acceptable to be doing a few jobs or whatever?
I think that it's not going to work if you try and do it in your house. Of course, you can do short retreats in your house, but you need, for the whole period, to be almost single-pointedly focused on the object of your meditation, the object that you choose. In general, it is suggested that you should choose emptiness as your object of meditation. And if you're doing it at home, you've got so many distractions, so many objects of distraction. You just got to look around, and your mind is attracted to all kinds of things. And so it becomes very difficult. Your concentration is broken, and people are going to be phoning you, and people asking you to do things. And if you go to work, for example, then you're concentrating on work. Yeah. So you really have to make a decision to go somewhere where you're going to be able to function solely in developing this mind of tranquil abiding. So we don't have the place in Scotland anymore. It moved initially to Germany, but then that became simply Kadampa Meditation Center, Germany, which is mainly a teaching place. But we have a place in Switzerland called Kailash, Kadampa Meditation, Kadampa Retreat Center, Kailash, and it's an extraordinary place in Switzerland. There's also a retreat place near Madrid in Spain. I spent a little bit of time there, and it's really extraordinary place. Sorry? Tara Center, yes, in England is a retreat center. Yeah. So there are a few retreat places throughout the world. Is Arizona not a retreat? The temple in Arizona? It's an IKRC. Yeah. There's a temple in Arizona, in northern Arizona, which is a retreat center. So there are a few places where you can go. I wouldn't advise you to start thinking about doing a 3-month retreat at home. It'd just be, you'd be far better spending your money going to one of the retreat centres.
Well, we'll be doing weekend retreats in January, won't we?
Well, yes.
Second, third, fourth weekend in January. We'll
Yes.
be spending Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Do retreats.
Oh, I was going to ask if we do retreat from January, that's great.
Weekend retreats.
Yes, on Lamrim. The lamp for the path to light. Mainly meditations out of meditation handbook, or the Mirror of Dharma, actually.
So to look at, the best place to do the breathing meditation will probably be an extremely quiet space. Because when I was doing it then, I could hear the traffic, and that's still thoughts, isn't it?
You could hear the traffic.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's still thoughts.
Wow. Yeah. But you know, when your concentration deepens, you won't hear the traffic. Yeah. And the fact that, we're surrounded by distractions and our mind goes to them. But when our concentration becomes deeper, you don't hear these things. I would encourage you to have a place in your home that is just for meditation. It could be part of your bedroom or wherever you think is appropriate. And that space is just for meditation, nothing else. So you clear everything else away. So you clear away all the distractions of the magazines and the books and so on. And it's just for meditation. And also, if you can, to have a specific time of the day for your meditation. So you always go there at that time. And you just clear all the kids away and just say, sorry, this is my meditation time. Go and meditate yourself. You know. And that way you're creating conditions that are more likely to be successful. Yeah. Because you're creating a proper space, you're creating a time that you know is yours. It's only for meditation. It's not for checking your emails or your texts or whatever. So in general, did you experience that when we repeated the meditation from the first session with getting rid of all the distracting objects, it was an improvement? Yeah. So this shows you what your mind can do. And just to get rid of distractions, you can dissolve them all into emptiness. Because that's essentially what we're doing. When something's not appearing to you, when you're not thinking about it, then it doesn't exist for you. And that's the joy of emptiness. Because if you want something to disappear, you just stop thinking about it. Even about things from the past. So often we have thoughts and experience. We think about experiences we've had in the past that when we think about them, it just disturbs our mind. We lose our experience of peace. And so if we stop thinking about it, it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. But I'm not saying that's easy to do, because we have very often a really powerful habit of thinking about it, allowing it to appear in our mind. But if we practice just allowing it to appear and not making any judgment about it, not thinking, oh, this is terrible, or this is wonderful, whatever it is, can be good experiences too. Just say, oh, it's just an experience that I happen to have. Then we're taking the sting out of it, or the excitement out of it, and then we're just allowing it to be. And then gradually it just disappears. We stop thinking about it. And we begin to focus on the present time. Because in reality, the present is all we have. That's why it's a gift.
So, can I just ask, please, when we're say using the breath as an example, and I said, like, get to 21. And then a thought comes into you. You can see that a thought's coming into your mind, but so you've still got number 2 in your head, and you've got number 10 or whatever it is. You're thinking number 10 and you're only in and you're out breath. But something's trying to push its way up, but you're thinking, well, no, keep it on the breath, keep it on the breath. Because you've had that interruption, even though you're still remembering 2 and you can still feel the breath, even though you've had that interruption of the thought, do you still have to go back to 1?
There's always one, yeah.
You haven't lost the object, have you?
Well, but what you have is like subtle mental excitement. So, as I said earlier, we get rid of gross distractions with the moral discipline, but then we still have some mental excitement and mental thinking. So this is like a more subtle distraction.
And you're
Yeah.
thinking, am I doing this? I'm doing this right? Or
As soon as you think that, you're not. I remember when I first started doing it, I would get to 17 and think, I'm only doing well. And then for some reason I would get stuck at 18, and then occasionally I would think I would be doing well, and I'd think, oh, here comes 18 again. But then you just got to force it through. Sometimes you've got to strengthen your grip on the object and just push it through until you get to 21 and so on. But also you can practice as you're throughout the day. You can be walking around just counting breaths. You don't have to tell anybody, but...
So, but can you do the home with the counting as well? Or is that classed as a distraction?
Oh, would you could, I guess you could. You count each cycle of Oma Hum as one. It's making it more complicated and more likely to run into problems.
You know, if you're walking, each step, if you're focusing on it hard, count each step. Takes your mind off other things because it's just one. So each step is like a rhythm. You're counting.
You could do, but I think it's better to count the breath because there's an association between our breath and our physical being and mental being.
It works. You're going, thinking, well, and each step sort of like count because you can feel each step going to the ground.
But if you think about it, if you count steps, you could count your breath. And there's an advantage to counting breath because your breath is kind of linked to aspects of your energy, your subtle energy system.
I like the breath because it's physical. It's never a thing I've noticed. But because you feel it cold and then warm, something physical you can feel.
But what we're doing is we're developing a generic image of our breath. You can't see your breath when you're meditating. But we're developing a generic image of this process of breathing in and breathing out, and the feeling that's associated with that. So some of the meditations we do are just watching the feeling. So they take the object of our meditation as the feeling at the tip of our nose, and then meditate on that. So there's countless, in our tradition, there's countless meditation objects. But in the beginning, I would just stick to breathing meditations, that simple, that one or just counting breaths is very good to improve concentration. Watching the feeling at the tip of the nose, black and white breathing. Apparently, during the pandemic, when I was in North Carolina, I made a video of black and white breathing, and apparently it's still on the internet somewhere. And people, sorry? And people seem to enjoy it and like it and use it. So
That's what it is. Something black and white.
black and white breathing, okay. Imagine that all your negative thoughts and feelings appear in the form of black smoke inside your body in a small cloud. And so every breath you take, you breathe out some of the black smoke. And so gradually you're removing all that negativity. You're imagining you're removing all that negativity from your mind. And then as you breathe in white light. And this light comes from the blessings of all holy beings. And so you're filling your mind and body with positive energy. So it's getting rid of the black and filling your mind with the positive, yeah. And people...
So can I just say, I was reading an article yesterday, and we've done studies on meditation, and with the breath, if you use a hum in it, like a proper it's 15 times more powerful. So people have already done studies, so that's why I like the hum.
Great, super. Anything else? I don't think I have anything else to add. Yes, except that as our concentration is improving, we're gradually making progress through the 9 mental abidings. If we take the first 4, the first one is called placing the mind. So you're able to place the mind on the object. If we're unable to do that, then our meditation has no function. And then we hold it single-pointedly. And then, obviously, we're going to lose it after a while because our concentration is not that great yet. So we lose it, and then we replace it. And the second mental abiding is called replacement. No, sorry, the second mental abiding is continual placement. So we keep going back to the object. And then replacing the mind on the object, we're able to hold it for longer periods. If we're able to hold our mind on the object and replace it instantly throughout the whole meditation session, it means that our alertness has become stronger. It's able to detect whenever our mind is moved off the object, and instantly we bring it back again. So there's no gap at all in our meditation. So we're able to hold our meditation for 5 minutes, and then in that we progress to the 4th mental abiding, which is called continual placement. Yeah, and then you progress to the other ones where you're overcoming subtle mental excitement and subtle mental sinking. And you're applying different, sometimes you're applying more effort, and sometimes you're holding back effort. You're just allowing your mind to relax into the object. So you're not checking all the time, have I got the object? Because as soon as you can't check and hold the object at the same time. Yeah. So, well, if you're checking all the time, it's like a little sparrow shaking its wings. We want to be like a big condor, just gliding upwards. Okay. Okay, condors. Thank you so much. So next week we'll speak on on wisdom, realizing emptiness mainly. There's also other wisdoms like realizing karma. Thank you so much.